Quality assurance is responsible for not only verifying that new features that come into the product do what they are supposed to, but we're also responsible for verifying that those new features or bug fixes don't negatively impact any other part of the application. So we want to operate with sort of like a do no harm sort of approach, and that anything that comes in, we want to make sure that existing users are not impacted by any changes that we make.
At Inductive Automation, QA tests the application via manual and automated tests. We work with developers and product owners to make sure that the features meet everything that the customer would want, as well as us internally. And we just break the application. Our goal is to make sure that it is as smooth as possible, because it's going into factories where millions of dollars worth of inventory and other things are being created, and minutes of downtime is a lot of time wasted and a lot of money wasted for these customers. So it's really important what we do to make sure that everything works as it should.
The quality assurance division is a key component because developers tend to think along a sort of happy path. And so they'll see some sort of issue and they will find a solution that resolves that issue. But they tend to think of it in a simple use case and their solution works for that use case. Quality assurance tends to think on an unhappy path. And so while the developer has decided, if I follow these steps, my fix will work and this is no longer a problem, QA will actually look at it, and instead of following those prescribed steps, we will follow different steps so that we can see not only does this get to where we want to be, but if we interact with it in a way that the developer did not expect, where do we end up? Is that a problem for the customer? Did we do something along this sort of path that results in something not working?
Being a QA engineer does give you an opportunity to use a lot of the same skills as a developer. We're writing code when it comes to automating tests. We're reviewing code when it comes to the code that we're testing. It's very technical in nature, and it also, you have to look at yourself as somewhat of a developer and somewhat of a user of the software. So there's a lot going on there.
With QA, you're working with all of the new features. You're testing them, you're figuring out how they work, you're working with the lead developers, trying to figure out how they work, test it, break it, just having healthy back and forth. So you're in all of the new stuff that as a new developer, you're likely never going to touch for at least 2 to 3 years.
QA is really in charge of kind of finding and fixing problems. So sometimes that involves speaking with customers through like the forum. In addition to that, we are always kind of on top of one, tracking the existing issues, and two, just looking for any areas where there might be new issues that might come about, or sometimes customers will find something that we weren't looking for.
As test engineers, we're reviewing those user stories and understanding what it is we're trying to deliver. And as we deliver them, we're documenting those tests. We're creating automated tests where we can, mostly just to ensure that those things continue to work as we go forward. And
for quality assurance, we want to make sure that any new content coming to the application doesn't negatively impact anyone. So an existing user shouldn't actually notice negatively anything that we bring into the application. And that way, we are also sort of the voice of the customer, in that if something is wrong that we think could affect someone, we need to make sure that we bring that up here so that a customer's voice is heard before it actually gets out into the public.
The customers really play a large role in kind of creating work for QA. We'll find that sometimes, they're doing something that we didn't even think that they were going to do.
Inductive Automation has a really unique relationship with customers. In other places that I've worked, it's really hands-off. Customers exist and you may see them on forums, you may see them mentioned in issues, but you never actually interact with them. Inductive Automation is the exact polar opposite of that. We have developers and QA engineers active on our forums all the time, as well as support engineers. We have customers that know us on a first name basis. When we have ICC, our annual conference, customers come up to us, shake our hands, in person. They're like, "Oh my gosh, you helped me so much with this issue that I had last year." And it's very refreshing when you have a customer that knows you and you know that customer.
Yeah, at this company, I would say communication and engagement with our customers is really encouraged. It kind of ties also into how much of a sense of ownership we have with the product. And at some companies you have this layer of product management that's dedicated to making these decisions about the product that's separate from software engineering. Where here it's very tightly coupled with that division. And I think that's really to our benefit because it brings us that much closer to both the problems we're trying to solve and those who we're trying to deliver those solutions to.
Inductive automation instills trust in development and QA to ensure that we feel that we can answer the questions that a customer has in a forum atmosphere.
Our culture in software engineering is really friendly and collaborative. Every engineering team has not only developers, but also members from the design team and from the quality assurance team. And typically that's multiple people from each of those divisions. Our team has multiple developers, multiple QA engineers, and also members from the design team on there. And so whenever something comes through our team, you have 12 people that have insight into whatever is happening with this feature or bug fix. And you need to be able to clearly communicate with everybody. That requires a lot of going back and forth, whether it is moving something from concept to finished product and going through that development, design, QA phase, or whether it's just snowballing ideas off of each other. A lot of concepts that come through our team will have a general idea of what we want to do with a feature or fix, but maybe we don't know if that's going to actually solve all of our end use cases. And so QA will weigh in, design will come in with new concepts and new approaches, and we'll have a lot of back and forth.
The one thing that I really like about inductive automation in general is the relationship with development in general. It's not an us against them mentality. It's something that it's a collaborative effort. Everybody is after the exact same thing. We want to make the best product possible for our customers.
Being part of the division and within QA and working very so closely with developers, how they are creating something from seemingly nothing and being just kind of having a front row seat to that process and being involved in it. It's something that's, I think, really unique to software engineering and part of what makes it exciting to be part of that group.
I definitely do feel that the relationship between the developers and the QA team is actually really great. So great that sometimes I forget, who's development and who's QA because I see it as just a team, and I feel like everyone else does too. If I have an issue with something, I know that I can go to someone that's a developer or someone that's in QA.
It's not like some companies I've been at in the past where you have these isolated groups of developers on one side and QA on the other side, and you kind of feel like work's being thrown over the wall to you to test. We're really working together from the beginning to make sure we're on the same page about what we're doing, and we're collaborating on those things. And we have the opportunity to provide input and go back and forth and share ideas. So it's really good in that regard.
One unique thing about quality assurance here in Inductive Automation is we have the ability to interject ourselves into the process at any point. And so instead of waiting until something has gone through design and development and is essentially ready to go out the door, it just needs to be tested, we can actually bring ourselves into the design phase and interact with the design team and say, what features is this going to have? It's important that it cover this for a customer. Have you considered this? Then once it gets to development, we can actually make sure that the developer is going to be worrying about additional use cases as opposed to what may be listed out in the design docs. And having that ability to interject myself in the process at various points is something I didn't have elsewhere.
If we do have a concern, we feel that we can bring it up and it will be listened to. That isn't true at all companies, and it's nice that QA does have a voice. What's also nice is we are striving for a 1-to-1 developer to QA ratio, which is unheard of in the industry. It's something where one developer to one QA being able to spend the time to be able to make sure that our application does meet the requirements that we have, the needs of the customer, and being able to spend that extra time to make sure it's correct when it goes out is something that shows that inductive automation has a real dedication to quality and is really behind the product that it's putting out.
So anyone coming on here doesn't have to know the entire application. You don't need to know the entire application at all Because we actually have an on-site training team that's used for training customers who are adopting Ignition as their product. And that same team is going to train our members as part of the onboarding. So even if you have no knowledge of the application at all, we can get you on board, we can get you trained up, and you can go right into a specialized team where you don't need to know the other parts of the application, only what you're actually working on.
When I came in, I didn't really have QA experience. And so it was kind of daunting at first because I wasn't really sure what I was getting into. But I found that even though I didn't have that experience, I did have the experience with Ignition itself. And so that combined with, the support of my team and, my manager, it really helped kind of ease the process of settling in. It didn't feel like, I was just being thrown into everything. And that was something that I really appreciated as a new hire because, it's scary enough to, move to a different company, different faces, different work. But I think it makes it a lot easier when you have people that are supporting you and the tools that you need to do your job.
The company is willing to invest in every new hire, and Inductive Automation wants their new hires to succeed, and they'll give you every opportunity to. I've found that they've given me everything that I need to be as successful as possible in my job as a QA.
When I started Inductive Automation, I knew a few programming languages, but my previous employer had really only dealt with a small subset, and that was all I needed to know at the time. When I started here, I had to learn Python from scratch and immediately apply that to creating a functional automated testing suite. And we regularly will find that we need new languages and new technologies to move forward. And it's great when our employees just take the time to go and learn those languages and put them to immediate use.
There's a lot of opportunity to provide value, and a lot of us can do that in different ways. And we've really tried to open doors for people in different departments to come into our group. And then we have a very obvious path of progression up through the positions within software engineering, whether they be contributor roles, something more technical, or a manager role, something of that nature.
A lot of computer science graduates coming straight out of school will see quality assurance positions, and they will immediately sort of just move on and put those to the side and not even give them a second guess. And I was the same way coming out of college. I, at the time, took a QA position because that was what was available to me. I happened to get really lucky, and immediately after getting hired onto that position, I was put on to doing automated testing. And I loved it because I got to actually code while I was doing this quality assurance role. I specialized in that, and over the last several years, my actual code contribution here at Inductive Automation is right about the median for the software engineering division. So computer science graduates shouldn't just see QA and, put it off to the side and not even think about it, because even though you want to be a software engineer, you can still do coding and not actually be a software engineer or a developer. A lot of computer science graduates don't understand that you can get those sort of coding roles without actually being a mainline developer.
What's cool about the QA job in general is it's not something that anyone ever gets taught in school, in college, or anywhere. It's something that most people stumble into. So people have education degrees. Some of them have computer science degrees. Some have philosophy degrees. It all depends on it. There's no right degree to go into QA. It's something that anyone with the right mindset can pick up. And if somebody doesn't want to stare at code all day, it gives them an opportunity to still be creative, to still code, to be able to test and do things that they enjoy doing.
The role of QA is maybe somewhat overlooked. Maybe people don't realize how close it is to development and how there's so many shared skills there.
For those who are already quality assurance engineers, I've found that here in Inductive Automation, we're much more flexible on what I work on a given day. With my previous employer, I found that I had a task that was assigned to me at the beginning of a sprint, and I had to work on that until it was done, and then another task was given to me at completion. And so I never really got to choose what I was working on a given day. It was already assigned out to me. Here we have much more of like a backlog system that has not only automation features, development features, bug fixes, but perhaps I just need to, take some time to learn about some other feature of the application. I can pick and choose what I do on a given day, and it's much, much better for me to have that sort of flexible approach to my day.
With the nature of Ignition, we have so much that we interact with. It's PLCs, databases, phone systems, name it. There's a lot of different technologies that we're working with on a day-to-day basis. Because of that, we're testing all of these different areas, and no 2 days are the same, because in one day, I'll be focusing on making a change on one type of PLC. The next day, another type that is completely different in nature. One day, I'll be working on the phone systems. One day, I'll be working just with the UI in general, which with perspective, it's a toolbox to build your own website. It's something that no matter what I'm testing, it is never the same.
Nothing's off the table in terms of testing.
My position is never boring. I get to pick up whatever I want to work on a given day. And so Monday through Friday, it's something different every day, whether it's automation or a feature or a bug fix, or just doing exploratory testing and seeing if anything has changed that we need to know about. No day is the same as the day before, and that's really, really refreshing.
Every time you're using an app, sometimes in the back of your mind, you'll be saying, I wonder what happens if, or if I did this. And one thing that's cool about that is in QA, you get to do that, and you get to do that every day. So say you want to add 1 million records to the database and see what happens when it's trying to render on a web page. You can do that. What if you want to delete the database? You can do that.
My work as a quality assurance engineer is incredibly important because it's adopted next day in a real-world live environment. As soon as a ticket is merged in, it's being used by other customers the next day. I had a ticket that was one of the first ones I tested here, and within days of it being merged, it was already being used as a proof of concept for manipulating and monitoring a theme park ride in Florida.
I kind of tried out a lot of different softwares, and I honestly really do believe that Ignition is the best. I don't just say that because I work here. I think what Ignition does is it takes everything that an integrator needs and kind of makes it user friendly and makes it complex tasks you can just kind of drag and drop, and so that simplifies things for the integrator. It makes it quicker, it makes it easier, and so that definitely is something that I'm proud of, because I can actually say I work for the company that makes the best integration software out there.